please give examples of countries that are successful in supporting their creative economy?
America has been extraordinarily successful from about the 1850s through to today. It is the most creative country in the world. The European countries were very creative from from the Industrial Revolution perhaps, still to today. China is becoming wonderfully creative. The young people in China, in terms of their art, their design, their video, are wonderfully creative as well. So through history you can see different societies, different cities. It's a city-based phenomenon, have provided the ecologies where people can have ideas, where they feel confident about having it, where they can share ideas, where they can have weird ideas, odd ideas, ideas that nobody believes in, but they are given the freedom, or they demand the freedom to follow them through. And there'll be a high fallout rate, but some of them will succeed.
Can you please give me specific examples?
Well, my favorite example, because it's often used to justify the opposite cause, is Hollywood. That's partly because I work in the film business. Hollywood was started by European immigrants going into America in the 1920s. And they went across America as far from the government and from New York City, the center of the media business. We are free to work the way we want to work. And out of that came an industry which is world dominant still, 90 years later, in making movies and making television. That's an example, not a government backing off of the entrepreneurs just evading government. They didn't want government to get involved in running their companies. They didn't want government to get involved in any questions of taste and decency.
What about in Europe? Which countries are successful in their creative sectors?
I think Britain's very, very, very creative, very successful. France, Italy is one for design. The Nordic countries, very, very small countries that had very few natural resources, and they invented mobile telephones. They had an extraordinary high standard of design. They still do. They invented Skype. They invented Spotify. Extraordinary talented people from countries that have a population about the size of Bangkok.
In Asia, which countries are most advanced in the creative sector?
I think China is the most advanced.
Really?
Yes.
China?
Oh, yes.
It sounds very unusual to me because China is
30
pretty
years ago,
known
China would have
for
been
intellectual property rights violation.
Yeah, but, you know, intellectual property is important, but it's not the only factor. Art, it's not really important in art. You can have wonderful design without worrying about protecting the design. Movie making, music and television, where you want to make lots of copies, then copyright's important. But people are creative or not because of copyright. They're only creative or not because of copyright if they want to use the copyright to make revenue, and they have spent a lot of money on the original product. So I would say China, Japan, Korea, Singapore, I would say Thailand, obviously, Indonesia, Malaysia.
For China, can you please tell about how the creative scene is going on over there?
Well, it's happening. It's happening mostly not in the media, because the media is still subject to very tight control by the party. It's happening in fashion, in clothing. It's happening in design. It's happening in art installations, video art. It's happening in architecture and interior design. It's happening in the bars, the clubs, the restaurants. Extraordinary buildings being built, extraordinary interiors being created. And there's a wonderful sense of freedom and confidence. I know that's an odd thing to say, because they're not free in the way that we regard freedom for the citizen. But they, by comparison, feel free. And freedom is a very relative concept. Yeah? So if you feel free, you feel confident to try out new things. And the economy is growing at 10% a year, and that's very good because if you fail, it's okay. You can get another job somewhere else. So there's a lot of freedom, a lot of confidence, and a lot of wonderful work being done on a huge scale. You've got 1.3 billion people. It makes a difference. In the same way America had a lot of people, and that's why they became so creative on a big scale. I'm talking here not only about individual creativity, but about the creative economy for which you need scale.
That's very important, right? Scale.
Yeah, very important. You can have individuals being extraordinary, but remaining individuals. In order to have scale, you need cities that are sophisticated and open. You need a big population.
Do Western countries and Asian countries have the same approach to building creative economies?
Creativity tends to flourish. Creativity flourishes where there is freedom. I don't necessarily mean political freedom, but a certain kinds of intellectual freedom. And it flourished naturally in America, which is a very free country. In Asia, countries, governments want to try and control their creative economies. And my feeling is that's really difficult. And it's sort of impossible. It's like trying to square the circle. You can do a few things to encourage it, support it, to send out signals that you want it to happen, but you can't control it. And if you have a country that is used to quite strong control, that has a 5-year plan, that is used to micromanage the economy, and used to controlling through license or through government procurement how companies operate, then those sorts of governments are going to find it really difficult to stand back and let a creative economy flourish.